I love repurposing things and ending up with a stack of old denim and jeans with tatters and tears and things in them is just another opportunity to turn it into something wonderful. So I made bean bags. For projects like this, it's nice to just settle in on the couch. Denim is one of those really sturdy materials that you can use for so many different things. Totes, or turn a pair of jeans into skirts. The wearable refashions, they're not for everybody, I know. At the very least, denim is fantastic for cleaning. They're especially well suited to shop rags. So every time I get a stack of jeans now, I cut them up and take them into the bike shop and just donate them. To preserve my scissors, it really does take a toll on blades and things. It's a thick material. So I cut alongside the seams everywhere I go. Just like this. So you get a big old panel and cut them to square-ish, rectangular-ish kinds of proportions. Good, but what we're really making right now is bean bags. We have to cut these out. This is the part where you put the scissors down and you pick up a seam ripper. Seam ripping pockets takes a lot of patience. Get cozy, settle in. There's a reason I like doing this on my couch. To get this started, I open up the top portion of this and wedge my seam ripper into one of those if I can, and just keep pulling it open. Typically, when I do this, I'm wearing my glasses instead of contacts because a little eye protection is warranted. I busted 4 seam rippers in the first 20 or so jeans. And this part is really finicky. You just keep going in there. This part of the pocket has been stitched like a gazillion times. You just keep going and it starts to look like a hunk of fuzz, and that pocket is still on there pretty darn solidly, and you just keep going. I'm not joking, you just keep going. Eventually it starts to open up. That's when you know you're getting somewhere. See? I've done a gazillion of these, so don't stress yourself out if this is really frustrating. I know I make it look easy now. It's only seam ripping. It's not like the biggest deal ever, but in all seriousness, I got pretty worked up and frustrated a few times. It's all fun and games now. Get this and that and you too. Get off. Here. Using the side of my hand, I brace the material, hold up the other side of the pocket. The edges are the trickiest. Just come in here with the ball side. The blunted side, that's the one that you want on the inside of your jean pocket. Otherwise, the point will go through like a regular needle would. It will rip holes in your future bean bags, and that's not cool. Rip it good. You do the outside seam and for a little bit, and then come back in and do the inside seam. Pull it along as you go. At this point, it's just normal seam ripping. If you've done a lot of sewing, you've done a lot of seam ripping, let's be real. Ta-da! Now do it again. I'm gonna bring you guys down here so that you have a better view of what's going on. Don't mind my bandaged fingers. Doing the dishes the other day, and believe it or not, both of these cuts are from a mason jar lid. Of all things, a mason jar lid. Those lids are out there. They'll get you. Watch yourselves. I am still going on this second corner up here. This is about how it goes. Pull it open as far as you can. Careful not to stab yourself. See how I'm moving in toward my hand? I place it without any pressure at all, and then turn it up away from my hand before I pull the stitch. I know it seems pretty counterintuitive to take advice on not injuring yourself from a woman who injured herself on a mason jar lid, but you're just gonna have to trust me. Or not, make your own mistakes, live dangerously. As it starts to open up, you see those stitches in there, you have access to more threads at once, and you can go in and thread underneath a whole bunch of them at once. And it will be a little tighter to get the seam ripper in, but once you do, you get so many more, and then it just pops right open. You get a whole bunch of those. There it goes. We got this side, we got this side. It's coming together, or coming apart. Little red ball points on the inside, down a ways, come back, do the inside seam. Makes a big difference to pin the material down, otherwise it's just kind of all over the place. To do both at the same time, the inner and outer seams, you can go perpendicular and launch a seam ripper at yourself. You can go across and just continuously pull, like create tension, and then as you pick them, it'll open up 3 or 4 stitches on each seam at the same time, which is pretty great. This only works once you get it started, but once you've got it going, it really goes. Ta-da! We have both pockets. Now we need to get all the excess threads out of them. If you have one of these, it's called Seam Fix. These are amazing. It just pops it all right out. Anywhere that it gets stuck, just kind of rub it across. This is my favorite part. It's so satisfying. It's like a beehive shaped piece of silicone. If you want to use like an eraser, or if you have a silicone, oh, that gives me an idea. Hold on, I'm gonna try something. All right, this is a silicone spatula, no joke. And I'm just gonna see if it, yep, it does. It absolutely does. It just kind of grips the threads and pulls them out. So you don't even need a seam ripper necessarily. You just need some kind of piece of silicone. Yeah, this is working great. The ridges in this do help even more. So if you have some kind of textured silicone thing to use, that makes a difference. But that's about it. I wonder if that's how this was invented. Like somebody figured out that hack with the silicone and started using it, and then they wanted a more specialized tool. Because part of what makes these really awesome is that it's actually a seam ripper inside. But did I mention I broke 4 seam rippers in the process of making these? Do you see? Busted. So there's one pocket, nice and cleaned up. Oh, it's so nice when they come off in long, big stretches. Look at this goofy thread. It's almost like curly doll hair. So many different ways to use things. So we have our 2 pocket squares, and we have a stack of denim rags to donate to the local bike shop. For the filler, I save and rinse my drinking straws. All different sizes, all different colors. They all work. They don't all work together necessarily. If you have a really thin straw and a really large straw, and one fits inside the other, you'll start with this much filler and end up with that much filler because they start to nestle into each other, and it's like a bag of chips, but not, but kind of like a bag of chips. So what I do is separate them. Coffee straws, very large straws, and medium straws. I grab a container and a pair of junk scissors. Not your good scissors, because we are cutting through plastic here. You can use your bag and cut them directly into the bag if you can find a way to stabilize it. If it's gonna fall over, you're gonna be chasing tiny straw pieces all over the place, and it'll drive you crazy. You wanna cut them so that they're about as long as the straw is wide, about right there, and just go all the way up. And they tend to flip quite a bit. You can do 2 at a time. Every time I work on this project, I'm finding pieces of straws for days. So you just get little pieces like that. And they're super bouncy and squishy, and just, they're so fun. The squishy beanbag fillings. I cut a lot of these before I started recognizing the nesting effect. And here is a perfect example. This is 3 straws nested into each other that happened just from sitting in this bag. Next, you put it together, and this couldn't be any simpler. You take your pocket squares, turn them so they are right sides together, and start with the upper right hand corner on the machine. It really helps if you have a denim specific sewing needle. Get the first couple stitches in manually, because the dog feet has a hard time shoving through that many layers of denim. In these corners, they're folded over. I think it's 8 layers of denim. Do your reverse stitches again manually. You can just put it back. And one more to get that all going. Once you have that in place, come on. There we go. Yeah, it has a hell of a time at first, usually. I think I may have broken a thread. Let's see. Yep. Mangled. I hate to say it, but this is not all that uncommon. So we get to pick that out and start again. Right sides together. So for this part, just make sure you keep lining up the edges so that you don't stitch one without catching the layer beneath. And get to the corner, go ahead and turn. Even on these little corners, like the bottom point and the 2 edges, you might have to really force it through because of the extra layers. Even if the needle isn't going directly through those, they still have to fit up under the foot, and the dog feet can sometimes have a hard time pushing that along. Pivot again, and on this corner, bring it over. And now we're gonna fill it right here on the machine. I got my filling. This beautiful rainbow mess, and I'm just gonna stuff it right in there. And I just stuff it until it feels about right. And just kind of hold the edge closed, and yeah. A little flat, put some more in there. You can see how much of this I've gone through already, and I'm not even done stuffing this thing. I've gone through almost half of what was in this bag, so it really uses a lot of plastic straws, and straws are one of those things that, in terms of conserving resources and reducing how much plastic we use in the world, drinking straws are one of those things that come up a lot. So I love this project. I really like how extra squishy this one is. I think, yeah, I'm gonna add even more here. Whoa, it's coming out on me. Perilous little project. Did I mention these are a choking hazard? If you have little babies crawling around on the floor, you might want to put this off until they're a little older. As a mother myself, it just keeps crossing my mind. A little more, pinch that. A little more, we'll stuff it. I'm just referencing that I like it squishier, turns out. Especially because the straws are so lightweight. Yeah, that's good. What was that? 1.5 cups of this? It seems like about 1.5 cups by the feel of it. And then we'll stitch off the end. When it really gets jammed, stop and help jiggle the needle through those layers of denim to prevent further knots. Get in there. Sometimes also when the foot comes up over all those layers, it automatically raises itself, even though it isn't supposed to be, or I didn't raise it. It comes up high enough that it ends up raised, and then it won't feed it through at all, and you're much more likely to end up with knots when that does happen. Another way to address the corners, if your machine has a hard time with all the layers of denim, in all seriousness, I've busted plenty of needles stitching through this many layers of denim, so it is no joke. You do need to be careful. You can bypass the corners altogether and just kind of let them hang out loose up here and stitch underneath them if it's having a hard time going through. Put in a couple back stitches and give me my threads. Oh, look at all of those knots. Point is, it's beanbag, and you can do a much better job of this one. Eventually it'll look like this one. Oh, that's lovely. Good grief. Oh my goodness sake, I think I know what the problem is. My stitch count is way too high for this. Look at those teeny tiny stitches. Can you say overkill? Wah wah. Live and learn. No wonder. It was trying to go through the denim so many times, it just got all frustrated and agitated and cranky on me. There are a couple. Check this out. This is the stack of pockets that I have. Still waiting. Okay, it's another one of the same pockets. Somebody has a favorite pair of jeans. Let's do that. Before I move on though, I am going to rethread my bobbin just to be thorough. I've lowered my stitch count, rethreaded the bobbin, and we are set. I am going to purposefully avoid that corner this round. Kind of start at a diagonal. Square it up. And pivot. Again. One more time here before we fillet. Fillet. Cut across that corner. Right there. Stuff it up. Probably with the remainder of this. I have a scant cut of filling left. I'm just going to put all of it in there. That's not going to work. All the rest of that. Definitely not as cushy. So I would even say there are 2 cups in each of these. But I'm going to stitch it up anyway. Yeah, lower stitch count made a huge difference. Voila. Jean pocket drinking straw bean bags. Bean bags. I think I can toss 2. Precursor juggling-ish, but 3. It doesn't work. Turn, and singing out a tune, ba-da-da-da-da-da. And that was sharp, flat, sharp, flat, sharp, flat. Literally. I think that's why they call it a trick. Or do we say trick here because I don't worry about it? It's a trick. You ever heard of approximate pitch?